Kaizen. Now, it's a Japanese word that one of the translations of it is continuous improvement. So it's improving, not just like improving once, right? It's this approach, this mindset, this principle of you can always do a little bit better. The importance of Kaizen is recognizing that, hey, anytime you put out a marketing piece, there's opportunity to do better, and then do better and do better and do better. And I learned from that there's always these opportunities for improvement. And the thing is, like, this philosophy, it actually came, so the Taguchi thing, that came from manufacturing and was transplanted into marketing and advertising. And continuous improvement, again, like, that came from manufacturing and was transplanted into marketing, and certainly matches what marketers and advertisers have been doing for a long time, at least within the fields of direct response. But the thing is, this as a principle can apply to almost anything. It can apply to, hey, how well do you play sports? Well, are you going to approach it from, I have this like fixed capability to do whatever sports, or I have this growing capability to do whatever sport, or to play chess, or to do time management and productivity, right? And so I want to talk about that today specifically. This Kaizen philosophy applied to productivity, for me, has, like, it is a constant journey of improvement. And recently I've been focusing on it a little bit more recently and thinking about it a little bit more recently. And specifically knowing that there are a lot of people in the productivity space who are happy to like work 65-hour weeks, 70-hour weeks, 80-hour weeks. I don't know how many hours are in a week, but people who basically would be happy to, there's that saying, I'll sleep when I'm dead, right? That's not who I want to be in terms of productivity. Ever since I started my full-time freelance copywriting business, I've actually worked to achieve full-time results in part-time work, because I drop my kids off at school a bunch of days a week. I pick them up. If they have a day off school, I'm often the one that's home with them. We actually spend summers where there's entire days of the week that I don't work, that other people would be going to work. And so I'm looking how to maximize productivity without beating myself up, without taking way too many hours in the week, etc. And one of the big things that you can do for that is just making sure that you're maximizing your flow time, your momentum. So it's not just busy work. It's how can I get the important stuff done? Because when you measure productivity, it's not just like how much time is spent, but it is how much was produced, right? Productivity. So however you're going to measure the output of work, that's what we're looking to do. And in a knowledge economy, and especially like a marketing business, it's about working on the important stuff, not just working, right? And so I'll admit this is a work in progress, but there is one thing that I've been doing this week that really pointed me towards this idea of 3 ways to spend your time for ultra productivity. Okay, so I promised the 3 ways to spend your time for ultra productivity, and I'll start with the categories, right? And so what I've actually been doing is on my calendar, I've been blocking the time out, and specific to how I'm blocking the time, I used to think that I had to block all these individual tasks and plan out, I'm going to do this work in this block of time, in this hour, and this work in this hour, and this work in this hour, and this work in this hour. And I thought that was the secret. And to some degree, yeah, maybe that's something to work towards. And if I had a schedule like a doctor and I was seeing patients, like, obviously the patient name would be at this time block, and then the next patient would be and this patient. And if I have phone calls in my business, that call is at this time, and so on, right? But on a broader basis throughout the week, really it's these 3 ways to spend my time that are the blocks that I can put on my calendar ahead of time, and then I can come back and fill in like what I'm going to do during these time blocks later. So number 1 is power, number 2 is flex, and number 3 is admin. So power time, flex time, and admin time. What do I mean by that? Well, power time is your time for your deep work, the Cal Newport idea of deep work, right? The work that requires more focus and more attention and requires more thinking and really is usually what's going to move the needle, right? Well, you want to reserve time for your power time, your deep work, your important work, your high value activities. And I'm going to look at value through 2 different definitions. So one is the values that you have. So what do you value? In a way, family time could be considered power time, because if you value your relationship with let's say your kids, right? That can be power time in your daily schedule, making sure that you have this power time set aside this is contributing to my value of family, or this is contributing to my physical fitness. So power time could be lifting weights, right? It could be your trip to the gym. It could be whatever, right? Or power time can be your financially valuable time, right? So there's the value of money, right? versus your values, and maybe making money and having resources is a value for you, but it's also that financially valuable that's essential for life today, right? In this world. And so power time, when you block that out on your schedule, usually you want longer, uninterrupted blocks of time. So I'm going to spend like 2 hours of focus time here, and this is just power time. And for me, like if I'm working on a client project, I'm going to fill that entire 2 hours with the client project, and I'm going to have maybe a list of tasks associated with that, or I'm going to know that I need to make progress on, the video sales letter script or whatever during that power time. But I don't necessarily need to block out, well, the first 15 minutes is going to be this, the next 15, because that's just going to create, it's going to create scenarios where I beat myself up, right? But I will say, like, blocking out that power time at the time where you're going to have the most energy for it throughout the day, and giving yourself enough of that every day so that you are able to achieve your important goals, and pushing aside, let's say, admin tasks that may also be important, but that take away from achieving the most important results that you're looking to achieve. Like, doing that is important, right? And so usually you want to fill your schedule with the power time first. And then flex time is mostly, I think of this like rest and recovery. And so your number 1 priority during any flex time should be rest and recovery. A good way to think about this is with weightlifting. So your brain is you can think of your brain like a muscle, and when you lift weights with your other muscles, like biceps or whatever muscles, right? A power lifter, somebody who really understands strength, will tell you that you can't train 7 days a week all out and like physically sustain that. You can't. And so the way that you train for weightlifting is you focus on one muscle group one day, and then usually there's at least a 2-day break where you don't do any major lifts that involve that muscle group. And so that's rest and recovery time for that muscle. And even in the context of a single workout session, you'll do set, break, set, set, rest. And so that rest time allows your muscles to kind of reset. It allows things like creatine to refill your muscles. It prevents lactic acid buildup. There's all sorts of advantages, and I wasn't thinking about actually talking about the metabolic processes of weightlifting right now, and so I risk going outside of my area of expertise. But basically, rest and recovery is critically important to weightlifting, and if you think about your brain like a muscle too, it's critically important to your brain working hard. And so think about this, for example, as like, I'm going to do a sprint and then I'm going to regroup, and I'm going to do a sprint and I'm going to regroup. And this matters in the context of a day. So maybe do a 2-hour power session followed by a 30-minute rest and recovery session, followed by a 2-hour power session, followed by a 30-minute rest and recovery session. And at that point, you have 5 hours where 4 solid hours have been spent doing this power work, but you gave yourself that break in the middle to kind of allow yourself to recover. Other people do sprints of like the Pomodoro technique, says 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off, and you repeat that a number of times, and then you take a longer break. There are other methodologies like that, but the principle is that basically you work hard and then you take a rest and recovery break. And so during this time, you can fit in breaks. I like to fit in a quick walk to just change it up, get some physical activity going. This is where you can fit in meals in your day. There's actually a reason. There is a reason that breaks are built into the daily schedule for people who work full time. And I think that as knowledge workers, as copywriters, consultants, we can often neglect ourselves in this way. Because or entrepreneurs, we're just like, go, 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 go. The reason that those breaks are built in is because our brains need that rest and recovery time, and our bodies need rest and recovery time, and breaks actually make you more productive. And if, in the case of like physical labor, they make you safer. And so breaks are important. This flex time is important. I will say that the way that I build flex time into my day, I often have bigger stretches of flex time, especially later on, that can also be used for light tasks and catch up. It's not time for my power work. It's not time for my deep work. It's not time for that really important stuff. But maybe it allows a call to go a little bit longer, or maybe it allows me, if I am in the zone with some power work, to stretch that out another 10, 15 minutes to finish up the task that I'm working on. Right? But it is not time that's just supposed to then be filled with more power work, right? And so those longer periods of flex time can be used for that. And then administration, of course, you know what administration is. All of us, whether we're in a job, a career, a business, whatever, we have all sorts of little admin tasks that are required throughout our day. So things like email and other things that need to get done, do them during admin time. Set aside time to do them. And by the way, like flex time, you want to schedule 30 minutes on Facebook in the middle of your day, like Facebook scrolling, right? Do that. And then at the end of that time, say, all right, now it's time to get back to my power work, right? If that's what rest and recovery looks like for you, I would argue that maybe that's not the best rest and recovery. But if that's what you've scheduled, great. Right? Like give yourself that flex time to do that thing. If you know you're going to do it anyway, why not do it intentionally? And then like, how do you prioritize this through your day? Well, there's a very famous demonstration that was done by Stephen Covey, the author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He'd bring a bucket out to the front of the room, and he'd have a second bucket of rocks and a second bucket of sand, and the first thing he'd do is he'd have this empty bucket, and he'd pour the sand into it, and he says, okay, so how many of these big rocks are going to fit into this bucket? And people would say, obviously none, right? Because it's already full of sand, right? Versus pouring the big rocks in first, which he would do next. He would demonstrate that, and then he'd say, okay, how much sand is going to fit in the bucket? And then he'd be able to pour a significant amount of sand, and it would go around the big rocks. So when you think about prioritizing your day, prioritizing how you're going to spend time, fill your schedule in first with the power time, right? Whatever values you have that you want to make sure get fit into your day, and whatever most financially valuable activities you need to do, like whatever you need to devote your deep work time to, put that in your schedule first, and then fill it in with the admin time and the flex time, acknowledging that you're going to need some rest and recovery time, and you're going to need some time to handle things like email, etc. And the way that I'm describing this, I actually, I've been a fan of Nir Eyal for a while, and he has a book, Indistractable, that talks about this, and his site talks about this. And actually, I was really pleasantly surprised when he was commenting on a different one of my episodes recently. But basically, when you look at your schedule for the week and you think, okay, what do I want to get done? It is super valuable to not leave empty time on your schedule. And here's where I kept running into this. And another person who'd been encouraging me to do this forever was Joseph Rodriguez, my coach, and also the person who recorded the Pinnacle Performance Habits training with me. The distinction that I think my stubborn mind took a long time to understand, that Nir teaches is, hey, you're blocking out this time to do this work, but you're not necessarily blocking out the time as a to-do list on a calendar, right? So you may have a to-do list. You may keep a to-do list for all the things that you need to do. And I'm a huge proponent. I learned the Getting Things Done system, which is all about keeping project lists and task lists, and Zen to Done, which is another, I like it because it's a simplification of getting things done. That's all about, okay, so can we focus on these activities and prioritize the most important activities? But what research is saying is that it's even better not just to have this to-do list, because this to-do list creates this endless sense of obligation and negativity and feeling like you're not doing a good enough job, versus, okay, here's the time that I have scheduled, and did I work on what I plan to be working on during that time or not? And if you plan to be scrolling Facebook during flex time, during this 30-minute period of your day, that is what Nir Eyal would call traction, because you're actually doing what you plan to do. But if you scrolled Facebook for 30 minutes in the middle of a power block, that is distraction, because you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing during that time. And so what you do is you set aside, okay, here's my power time, here's my flex time, here's my admin time. And if you have a project that you're working on, you could say power : new funnel. If you're working on a marketing funnel for your business, your client business, whatever. Power : sales letter for XYZ client. Power : whatever it is that you're doing, right? Power : record breakthrough marketing secrets right now, right? So you focus on that, and you do that during the time, and that is traction. And to actually fill in the blanks as far as what you're going to be doing during that time, yeah, that can come from your to-do list and your project list. So long term, you do want to have a project list and a to-do list, but you don't run your day from your to-do list. When you have something that has to get done for the day, you set aside time during the day and you do it during that time. And so short term, you want to fit the task to the time, or at least to the time blocks, and you want to be doing what you plan to be doing during that time, right? And that's, I mean, it sounds fairly simple, but it can also be difficult, and it can also be frustrating. And I mentioned that Joseph was recommending this to me for a long time, even in Pinnacle Performance Habits, which we recorded a couple of years ago. He said this is block time, or blocking your time blocking. And Nir Eyal calls it time boxing, right? But every time I did it, I would schedule I hope to get this done during this hour, and then I hope to get this done during this hour, and I hope to get this done during this hour, and I hope to get this done during this hour. And then my day would blow up, because if I didn't get, let's say, task number 2 done during hour number 2, because really it was a 3-hour task that I was hoping to get done in 60 minutes, including ramp up time, because that happens a lot, then I would feel terrible, and my whole day would be shot from there. And so part of recognizing, okay, doing power time, doing flex time, doing admin time, and kind of working from a to-do list and fitting in tasks there, it allows you to do more shame-free schedule making. right? I'm going to schedule my week like this. This is what I'm going to do during this time, but I'm going to do it from a place of flexibility and trying to create flow and trying to create good feelings and trying to maintain a positive state versus, oh, I'm going to be a drill sergeant, right? So the way to approach this is not as a drill sergeant who's whipping yourself to be ultra productive every minute of the day. The way to approach this is, okay, how can I apply this principle of I need my power time, and I probably want to get that done in the morning because I have pretty good energy, and flex time, I definitely need to work some of that in because taking breaks and having just a little bit of flexibility allows me to maintain a positive attitude, a positive state, and maintain the flow and let my brain take little breaks. And then when can I fit admin time in? Okay, maybe it can work when it's lower energy because it's just like do this, knock off these tasks, etc. And you approach it like a scientist and you say, does that work for me? Oh, does it actually work better for me to kind of ramp up my day with having 30 minutes of admin time in the morning? Does that work better for me? How can I do this, right? And then when you fall off your time block, just get back to the time block for the day. Just get back to what needs to get done. Go back to what you plan to do. And importantly, be willing to move tasks from day to day. Obviously, sometimes you just have to get something done that day, right? But there is only so much time in the day, and if you don't get it done today, getting it done tomorrow is the next best thing, right? So move the task to tomorrow and keep the schedule for today. So move on to your next thing and your next thing. And, take note about what did I try, what worked, what didn't work, and adjust accordingly. And this approach to time management, like I said at the beginning, it's Kaizen, continuous improvement, in the context of trying all sorts of productivity systems, all sorts of, all of that. This approach of saying, okay, scheduling works. Time boxing, blocking time, it works. I was doing it in a way that didn't work. But if I recognize that there are these three ways to spend my time, which is the big things that are important to do, which is the power time, the little things that I have to do, which is the admin time, and the time for flexibility and to maintain a positive state and to maintain freshness and to rest and recuperate. Right? That flex time, that's important too. And so how can I work these things into my daily schedule and make it all happen and achieve what I want to achieve through that? And based on my own Kaizen of time management and productivity, this is what's working best for me right now. And this is what I'm continuing to optimize every day, right?